To some, the world is crumbling. To others, they've built dynasties. Keep in mind, most teams only made one pick, and some teams didn't even make a pick at all. But I think one of the worst kept secrets in the room, Teddy, was Murray going number 1 overall as expected, Nick Bosa number 2, Queen Williams number 3, and then the Raiders at number 4 started to go a little bit off the rails. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it was lengthy, Teddy, last night.
Yeah, it sure was. Honestly, the coverage, I mean, did you watch any of it? It was brutal. It was really brutal. I tried. I had a big play on the Nuggets, and when they were getting blown out in the fourth, I'm like, I got to switch over. I'll get the volume on the other one. I couldn't watch it. Didn't last. Couldn't last through 2 picks. But for the draft proc, certainly, as you mentioned, the top 3, no surprises. After that, nothing but surprises. Maybe Miami's the only team that picked the guy they were supposed to after the top 3 picks. And when you're talking about a couple of big shockers right off the bat, certainly Farrell, a guy who was supposed to be drafted in the 20s. And Oakland's like, no, we want him here. We don't want him with the second first-round pick. We'll take him with this one. And then, of course, the Giants going with Daniel Jones and letting Dwayne Haskins drop all the way to Washington at number 15. Those 2 QBs, I understand Kyler Murray's number 1. But now Jones and Haskins become Manning and Leaf. It's like who's going to have the career and who isn't. And we'll see if the Redskins or the Giants made out better with that deal. Personally, I watched a lot of Duke football, and at no point did I look at Daniel Jones and say, yeah, this guy's the next Eli Manning. So maybe Giants saw something that I didn't. But with all of these picks, and with every one of them, this guy can't miss. He can't. Guess what? They're all coin flips. Every one of them. Even number 1 overall, the can't miss prospect, even Ed Oliver. Oh my God, how did he drop to 9? They're all coin flips. And that's why this is not an exact science. And that's why you don't grade your team's draft after the very first day.
No, it's always interesting, Teddy, too, because you take a look and you see all the coverage from the NFL Network, ESPN, ABC, and they're talking about the draft with their pundits for over a year. But there's 32 NFL teams with front office ownership, GMs, and head coaches that make their own individual boards. So I almost think it's kind of funny when some of these teams like players more than the other, but all we see are the same people beating left and right. Here's your number 1 tackle. Here's your number 2 tackle. Here's your number 1 quarterback. And it's funny when it comes up when the Giants pick the guy that they wanted at the spot at 6. Everybody's up in arms. But we do have to keep it, a little bit level-headed here because a lot of the times, Teddy, the same thing if you can equate it to playing poker, if you have pocket aces, is it smart to go all in on that first, hand that comes around the table, or do you draw people in and see the flop and let other people buyers in so it's a bigger pot out there? The one interesting thing is day 2, there's a lot of really good players left out there. And let's not forget, a couple years ago, the NFL draft, you were having, picks 1, 2, and 3 on day 1. Teams get a chance to regroup overnight. Trades are going to go down, and it certainly sets up an interesting day 2. But the one thing I do want to talk about, Teddy, is it seems like we always get big news in the NFL draft seemingly on draft night. Tyreek Hill in hot water again when a tape comes out that says, hey, the child abuse case that was cleared, now it looks like there's going to be murky water. The Chiefs don't want to comment on it. But you're talking about a team, Teddy, that loses already a Pro Bowl running back and now looks like their top wide receiver. That hurts.
It hurts a lot. And honestly, with the audio tape that came out, I don't know what the Chiefs can do in this spot. Last year they were in a nasty situation and they suspended Kareem Hunt and he never played another down with the Chiefs. Now it's Tyreek Hill in not the exact same spot, but a PR issue for Kansas City and a PR issue that I think they're going to solve by cutting him the same way they did cut Kareem Hunt. This is a bad news situation for the Chiefs. For bettors, however, we should talk about some of these props. It's really a bad news situation for the Chiefs, but under 3.5 QBs taken in the first round, that cashes. Plus money price there. Kyler Murray opened minus 140, closed as high as 2,500. Books did not do well on that prop. We saw Dwayne Haskins going under or over 6.5 at his draft choice, even over 13.5 at the Westgate. Number of Alabama players in the first round, over 2.5. Quinnen Williams, Jonah Williams, and Josh Jacobs. SEC players under 11.5 in the first round, only 9 chosen. Defensive players in the first round, minus 2.5 against offensive players. 18-14 margin, more defenders than offensive players in that first round. So a lot of fun with the draft props. Hopefully you cashed a few of them and didn't get burned.
Yeah, it should be a little bit quicker tonight with the NFL draft pick-wise. It always makes me laugh, Teddy, because you have national anthems, you have introductions, and then the full 10 minutes taken from the Arizona Cardinals to make their pick. So by the time you actually got to pick off the board, you're like 25 minutes already into the draft. Should be interesting to keep in mind tonight. And also, a little bit more on that Kansas City tidbit, Teddy. They are having a press conference to welcome Frank Clark in as their defensive end from Seattle. That should get interesting here with some of the waves coming from Tyreek Hill. We'll keep an eye on that. But there was an NBA basketball game last night, and the Spurs force a Game 7 with a Thursday win. Spurs close -3 with a total of 209, end up winning 120-103, setting up Game 7 in Denver Saturday, 8 p.m., Teddy.
Yeah, this was a disappointing one for me, but I'll give San Antonio credit. Look, just about every key Spur had a huge game. All 5 starters shot not 50%, better than 50% from the floor. So I was thinking that Denver had San Antonio figured out defensively. That was not the case last night. And of course, off the bench, the Spurs' depth was a big problem for the Nuggets last night. That 22-4 run to start the fourth quarter was the absolute difference. I was impressed with the way that Denver bounced back. San Antonio shot 67% in the first quarter. They were down 10, and the Nuggets were still right in the ballgame despite that hot shooting. But Nuggets went on one run early. They went on another one late. The late run, too much for Denver to overcome.
Yeah, Jokic, 43 points last night. If you would have told me coming into that game he's going to have that much of a big game, you might would have thought they would have stemmed the tide, but they haven't. But at Game 7, the NBA is probably happy, going to get a little bit more viewership. And just a little bit later in the show, I know there's only one NBA game tonight, Teddy. We're going to flip it over and preview some of those big action games on Saturday as well. But let's hit a little bit of Major League Baseball here. Phillies bats go silent in the night in Philadelphia. Caleb Smith tunes them out, 6 innings, 1 earned run. Aaron Nola had a nice bounce-back start there, Teddy, going 6 2/3, only down 1 earned run. But the key came, Starlin Castro in the top of the 10th inning, a 2-out, 2-run blast, 3-1. You got to beat the Marlins. Come on, Phillies. Wake up. But then, as I said again, they're in the midst of that 17-day stretch with 17 games, no days off. It looks like they're just waiting, Teddy, to get that day off, but not a good look. -210, dropping 1 to the Marlins.
No, and look, I mean, they were coming off a big emotional series in New York at Citi Field, and they came out, they were flat as a pancake yesterday. And look, we talked about it a little bit, with Caleb Smith, and this is a guy who the markets bet on Smith in several of his previous starts. And then yesterday, the money came on Philly because, the betting market, the markets where the odds makers were expecting money to come for Miami. And then it didn't. And lo and behold, Smith with his 5th consecutive strong effort. We're going to see a fair bit of attention being paid to Caleb Smith moving forward when he's on the hill for Miami. If you want to bet his games, bet him early, not later.
Yeah, it's not of a good pitcher, too, Teddy. Struggled in the first inning. He ended up throwing 33 pitches, but then settles down. He gets through 6 to try to help out that bullpen. Nice win by the Marlins. We'll see if it comes back or even they can get the game in rainy Philadelphia today. Role reversal out west, Teddy, with the Yankees and the Angels. Yankees blow a 4-0 lead from the previous night, getting a 5-0 lead and going ahead. Interesting one last night. The Yankees closed at -113 with a total of 8. And it seems like, Teddy, we had the same conversation yesterday. The banged-up Yankees lineup, every single game, it seems like these numbers are hitting over the total, despite who's even in the lineup.
Yeah, they're still scoring runs, and they're still scoring runs in bunches. And, again, last night, it wasn't the offense that let them down, certainly not in L.A., it was a middle relief, and we've seen that a couple of times from the Bronx Bombers this season where the middle relief has had a fair few cracks. That's a concern for the Yankees, but you know what a team like New York's going to do. They're just going to find a middle reliever somewhere in the betting marketplace and buy him and bring him to New York. But for right now, that's something of an issue. That being said, that lineup continues to sizzle, even despite the fact that they're missing, their 8 best players. I mean, it's insane, the injuries that have plowed through that Yankees lineup already.